Alright YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So today guys, we are gonna do the tier list. This is like post Nightmare Arrivals. We got the recent added supports for some older archetypes and some new ones as well. So that would be somewhat good or somewhat better for some other decks. But let's see. So our tier list is just composed of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Rogue and Experimental. So right off the bat, we have here Altergeist. Now, I'm not sure if this is, or the Altergeist is good with other archetypes because they lock itself to Altergeist monsters only. But as far as I know, it is struggling a little bit because with the current format, hand traps is really prominent. They are going to falter from time to time. So I'm gonna put them on basically Rogue at the moment, and trust me, I'm gonna put this one here. I would like to put them on tier 3, maybe in the near future when the format takes a toll with lesser hand traps than usual. This might be really good for a tier 3 deck, but as I've known the deck by far, or played the deck for like 3 weeks or so, I'm just gonna practically put this on Rogue. So that's Altergeist for you. Black Wings, practically Rogue at the moment. I'm not sure if this is still gonna be like a good tier list deck. Branded, practically tier 1. I'm still gonna put Branded on tier 1, being one of the best fusion decks nowadays. Yeah, you still have a lot of good combos that you can do with Branded, even with a 1 copy of Branded opening. So that's crazy. And then we have Dinos. Now Dinos got a little bit of support. The support wasn't like super crazy and all. It just helped the deck a little bit, although it takes a really good pilot for this deck to actually be good. But I'm just gonna put this one on Experimental. I think there are some other variants that we haven't actually tackled in Master Duel that would make this deck really insane. But yeah, Experimental. Battling Boxers, practically Rogue. I'm not sure about this anyways. I think the best one there is just a copy of Dempsey. The rest, I'm not sure if it's gonna be like crazy, even with the past selection pack. Drytrons, they got their new support. I think it was a little bit good because you now have an extra body on the field and also a searcher for your spell and traps, or was it just for spell cards? The new one garnered it a little bit more gas, but it's still practically Rogue. Hand traps is still a prominent problem with the current meta nowadays, so I'm not sure about Drytrons with the recent update. Dark Worlds, practically, yeah, I'm gonna put this one in Rogue still. There are other variants, especially with the current update for the colorless and the copy of Dark Corridor. It was a little bit refreshing though, having to have a new fusion monster into the game, but it's still gonna be Rogue. I think there are other versions where you can just run a pure Dark World deck, but I do prefer just going with the Danger Dark Worlds as a main deck for the Dark Worlds. And then we have Chimeras. Now Chimeras, I'm going to put this one as a hard experimental deck. The reason for this being is there are a lot of variants for Chimeras, whether it be Runic Chimeras or even Branded Chimeras. I think some other people even tried Tri-Brigade Chimeras. That was a really weird build, but it works. I mean, the deck doesn't lock you into any like Chimera monster or whatsoever. I think that's somewhat, you know, on the bright side for the deck. Yeah, I'm gonna put Chimeras as experimental. Dinomorphias, I am gonna put this one on, yeah, I'm gonna put this one on Rogue practically. If you ever win most of your coin tosses and you always go first, I think that would be a really good tier 3 deck. But you know, in the game of Master Duel where RNG is always going to be a main denominator for your games. So yeah, I'm going to put this one on Rogue. Labyrinth, I'm going to put this one on tier 2. I do see some good builds for Labyrinth. Mix and match with some other trap cards that we are accessible with. I'm just going to put this one on tier 2. Before, I was putting it on a pedestal on a tier 1 status, but yeah, let's be honest, yeah, really good tier 2 deck only. Gold Pride, practically around these parts right here. They are a good variant with Punks. Where's the Punks? I'm just gonna put Punks here as well, but not to an extent because Maxi and Nibiru is quite the problematic card for this deck if you're trying to combo it off. Kashtiras, I'm gonna put this one on experimental because I think the deck is struggling a bit on a pure version. Really, it's just trash if you're gonna run it on a pure version. But if you're gonna run it with other decks like Zodiacs, they are gonna perform really well. I'm gonna put this one on experimental. Vanadium, I'm gonna put this one on beside Labyrinth. The reason for this is Vanadium just got their new supports with Samsara, and Samsara is just basically a one card starter for most of your combos. So Vanadium is really good nowadays. Heroes, practically Rogue. I'm gonna put this one here. The reason for this is, well, yeah, heroes are heroes. You need to have a really good pilot and a really good deck building skill to make this deck work. I think the only significant gameplay there for the heroes is the increase or the Faris. So once you target those for some of your interruptions, it's gonna be hard for them. But yeah, it's practically Rogue, and even if they have a really good pilot, I think roughly they're gonna be on tier 3 if they have a really good pilot. And then we have Infernal Knights. I do believe Infernal Knights is a really good tier 3 deck. Way back, I put Infernal Knights on tier 1, and I do really stand my ground in regards to tier 1 for Infernal Knights. They have a really good ceiling if you're trying to combo it off. But I think as I play the deck from time to time, if you make a mistake with the Infernal Knights, then you are going to be punished for your mishap. Or am I being too generous for tier 3? Yeah, I think I'm just being too generous. I'm just going to put this one here, like maybe here. Exo Sisters, I'm going to put this on tier 3. The version for Shifter is not always going to give you more wins. Some of the cases here is once they ash your or one of your Exe monsters and you don't have like a Called by the Grave or a Crossout, and you basically like lose your board right there. And especially with the current meta for Snake Eyes, it's really prominent. Then we have Marinces. Marinces, I think it's practically Rogue. Takes a good pilot, but yeah, it's just Rogue. Floanderies, Rogue. The only problem with Floanderies is if you Ash or Imperm or whatsoever negate the summon of your first search, then basically they are dead on the board. Runics, I would say experimental. There are some other good builds for Runics aside from Chimeras recently that we tried on. I think people are still running with Naturia Runics, which is really prominent though. I do believe this on a pure version is really crappy, but in other builds it is really good though. Yeah. Rescue Ace, I do think this is one of the top tier decks nowadays, especially with Emergency and Preventer nowadays in the game, so that's really good. Resonators, I think they are really good basically here. And I do believe there are some other good tech cards as well for Resonators. Yeah, it really depends on the pilot working with the deck. Mathmech, basically tier 2. If Circular is still on 3 copies, this is still a really good tier 2 deck. Plunder Patrol on Rogue. I think that's reasonable, right? I mean, there's not other good versions for Plunder Patrol at the moment. Purely's tier 3. I would say tier 3 for a deck. The additional Happy Memory was kind of good, and the Purely Noir got it a little bit more gas for the deck, but it wasn't like game changing or whatsoever. It's still gonna fall into some of the hand traps nowadays for Master Duel. Although people are not even using Kaijus, there are really good decks as well, because once you summon the Purely Noir to the field, or the Big Noir, then there's no other way that your opponent can actually remove it. There is another good version where you can run the Ghost Trick engine with this, which is kind of insane. And like I said, if they don't really run Kaijus, then you are just gonna sit in your Purely Noir on the field. Mikankos, really good tier 3 deck, going second or going first nowadays. So the Ashoka Pillar was on 3 copies, and that was on the previous selection pack. It was a really insanely good card for the deck, and now with the new trap card, the deck can now go on a first turn basis and have a really good board as well. Although the back rows are kind of significant, but yeah, like I said, Mikankos are now really good on going first. Rikas, I think they are practically Rogue. Maxi's is the main issue there. Let's remove Floanderies there. Rikas are kind of good, but yeah, it just boils down to takes a really good pilot, and if you have the right cards on hand during your combo. So Tier Elements, really good tier 2 deck. I think with the current meta nowadays that they remove cards from the field to the graveyard, or pop cards from the hand or field, this deck is really strong. I think they are like right here though. After Labyrinth, I would say that's really reasonable. Yeah. Super heavies, I'm not sure about super heavies nowadays. Although the hits to super heavies was kind of laughable, the wagon to 2 copies and the soul piercer to 2 copies wasn't really that significant. But yeah, I'm just gonna put this on a rogue category just to be on a safe note. Sky Strikers, Rogue, practically, or you can go with experimental. There are some other good builds for Sky Strikers that would make it a really good deck. Sword Soul, Rogue deck. You need to have a really good pilot for Sword Soul. But other than that, yes, practically Rogue. Hand traps is gonna be like a main issue for them, especially if you're gonna combo it off. And with the format nowadays, like any other deck here that relies on searching and special summoning, that's one major issue with the deck. Sharks. So Sharks got, I don't think they got a really good support though, but regardless, I think the Armored Exe package was kind of good for them. I really was thinking that the deck was really crappy, even though the Sharks got their new support. But as I dealt with like 1 or 2 games with a really good Shark player, they can establish a really good board, especially with the Kraken on the field. So I'm gonna put them on experimental. This needs a little bit more experimentation for any type of player who's gonna play Sharks. Snake Eyes, no doubt about it, one of the best tier 1 decks nowadays for Master Duel. I don't want to actually put that in anywhere else. Synchrons, practically Rogue, Maxi, Ash Blossom, and whatsoever, even Droll and Lockbird are gonna be your main issues there. But they're kind of good though. If you are on challenge or uninterrupted, you can really make an insanely good board. Scareclaw, going first or going second, I'm gonna put this one here. There's no reason to play Scareclaw at the moment. The deck is fun to play, but that's basically what it has been for a couple of months or so. Sprites needs more experimentation. I think there are some other good builds for Sprites, going first or going second. I think Master Duel Central made a go second deck for Sprites and it got him a lot of wins. But yeah, like I said, more experimentation with the deck. I do believe the lack in Sprite numbers makes the deck flimsy, but regards to some tech cards, it makes the deck a whole or a really good in combo. Zodiacs, Rogue, practically if you're running pure Zodiacs, you have a ton of problems with the deck if you're getting Imperm or whatnot. But yeah, I'm gonna put this one Rogue. Unchained, really good tier 3 deck. Although a ton of interruptions and the board breaking skill for Unchained is kind of good. Vanquished Soul. So generally, the deck needs brain power or brain cells, which I don't really use that much. So I'm gonna put this one on Rogue at the moment, but in clear sight, I think this needs a really good pilot to make this like even a good tier 3 deck. But yeah. And then Trap Tricks, Rogue. Of course, it is Rogue. There's nothing else that we can do about it. It's kind of like Dinomorpheus, but I think Dinomorpheus is a better trap deck, I would say. Or Sartic, basically don't run this. I mean, the new support was good, but it wasn't like game changing, or it wasn't something that it would allow our Sartic to touch even the meta. Tri Brigades, I think some other good versions of Tri Brigades are gonna be nice, especially if you're still gonna run Sprite and Tri Brigades. They are still a thing. So I'm gonna put this one there, or maybe just downright Rogue. I think that's basically understandable, right? And then Volcanics. Volcanics, I think there are some other good fire decks that Volcanics might be really good at, other than the Snake Eyes, because Snake Eyes has already established Volcanics as a really good FTK, which is really consistent. But yeah, other than that, it's practically experimental. So yeah, that's basically it. That is our rundown with the tier list. Yeah, tell me your thoughts on the tier list. Do you agree or disagree with the tier list that I place it here? And tell me in the comment section below what you want to change with the tier list. So that's it for today. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.